The last point is to economic development. The department has, as you noted, helped create the city. It is one of the founders of this city. Continues to be so. We live in a desert. Without water, we couldn't thrive. Without electricity, our businesses today couldn't thrive. You can see just simple things that they can do to keep us on the forefront of where the jobs of the future will come from. I cited earlier their role in adopting a policy to install charging stations within 7 days of purchase of an electric vehicle. I can assure you that will help Los Angeles maintain its leadership position as we become the city of the future in clean and green. And it is things like that where they can make a difference. We have to make sure they're following through on their commitments. I've already begun working with the leadership at DWP. We will shortly install a person to lead the economic development at DWP on a full-time basis with the department to make sure they're following through. Again, thank you.
One comment I just asked you to think about is when you talk about the history, you don't want to go back and do that, but I don't think we can change the future if we don't keep in mind how we got there.
Oh, no, I think you learn from history, but let's just not dwell on it. I think we have to go forward and make sure we don't repeat errors and mistakes. I think that's vital.
Your business background, are there incentives that we should be offering businesses, or is there some part of this rate hike implementation over the next few years that we should take a look at how that impacts businesses and decide whether or not there is something that can be rolled out with our businesses to make this rate hike less painful?
Sure. No one likes a rate hike. I've never met an individual, my wife included, who pays our utility bill, or a business who would be in favor of paying more, especially in an environment where we have very high unemployment in the city. It's a terrible thing to do. That said, if we have to invest for the future, which we do, we have very large investments to make. Those will cost monies, and we're going to have to, as policymakers, engage and say which ones can we afford, which ones can our ratepayers afford, and which ones can't they afford. I'd make an observation that the piecemeal discussion of the issues and challenges the department as a whole faces is perhaps not the best way to engage. If we're talking about reservoirs and the need to be covered one day, and a different day talking about the need to expand or upgrade our transmission grid, the same person pays the bill for both of those. So I think it's really important whenever we engage around rates, we look at the system as a whole, because that's what ratepayers rate, and that's what they will pay. I think it is vital whenever we have a situation which may cause rates to be increased, that it be properly communicated, that we look where at all possible to mitigate the impacts on business, on individuals across the city.
At the table, they acknowledge that they have these two reserve funds, one of which has $500 million in it, that they acknowledge has not been touched at periods of 7 years. But they keep a label on it and say it's for hedged against something that's never occurred, but we can't bring it into the overall operation department. Those are two mind-boggling issues for me that just throw your hands up and say, we're going through a circle here, and they were certainly going to stay on script. They were certainly going to keep saying it over and over, but I don't think anybody believed what they were saying, and I don't think they believed it when they left.
Your concerns are valid. I witnessed the interchange. As I said, it was confusing at best. I don't wish to comment on the preliminary budget. I was involved in the preparation of that. I can assure you that when we present the full and final budget, I'd be delighted to engage in those issues in particular.